Tonight on Meet Your Double Feature, policeman Russell Stevens goes undercover to infiltrate a dangerous LA drug cartel in Bill Duke's Deep Cover. Then, an upscale New York family muses about the trials and tribulations of love in Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You. It's a somewhat problematic double feature, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Double Feature, a double-blind movie review podcast. My name is Thomas. I will be one of your two hosts for the show this evening. In a moment, I'm going to sit down with my brother Frank, an independent filmmaker from LA, as we discuss two more films in our blind review series. The way things work here is that each episode, Frank and I swap recommendations for films that neither of us has previously seen, and we find out in real time through conversation whether the ones we picked were a new favorite for the other person or just a complete waste of time. We're still also in our Forgotten 90s theme, so each episode focuses on films specifically from the 1990s. We're about halfway through that first season, and we're keeping track of the total review score points along the way. For those who are keeping track, Frank is actually currently down about 4 or 5 points, so we'll see if he can make up the difference starting in this episode. Now, if you are a new listener to the show, I will say this is maybe not the best jumping on point. I'd recommend either our first episode or even the one right before this one, episode 4. And the reason for that is that tonight's episode is a bit irregular. We actually almost had to scrap the entire thing due to multiple technical issues that we encountered when handling the original recording. The biggest issue is that in the second half of the show, when I talked about the film that Frank asked me to review, Woody Allen's 1996 film, Everyone Says I Love You, the audio from that half of the recording got corrupted, and we suffered some data loss that basically made the audio unusable. I spent a long time trying to fix it, and I did bring it back to a point where it was listenable, but because it wasn't up to the audio standard of the show, I decided not to use it. What Frank and I did instead is we actually got together a few weeks after the first recording to re-record a sort of supplement that takes its place. It's a little bit shorter, sort of just a summary of that initial conversation. I didn't want to do an entire retake because so much of the magic of our show is that moment of realization where you find out what the movie was that the other person watched and what they thought of it. So, for the sake of the overall continuity of our program, I wanted to make sure we included something for that film so you know what I thought about it and how it was scored and everything. But you'll notice that that half of the show is trimmed down and is something we recorded long after the fact. The other problem, which we didn't even notice until after that was re-recorded, is that in the first half of the show, Frank's audio was being picked up by the wrong microphone. So occasionally during his review of Deep Cover in the first half of the program, his voice kind of flickers in and out, and I had to boost that audio a bit, which created some mild artifacting in the background. Suffice to say, this was sort of a cursed recording. Again, we almost lost the entire episode as a result of this, but after a number of hours of work, we have restored it to perfectly listenable quality. But that's why I would say that if this is your first time, I really would recommend checking out one of our other episodes first, just to get a sense of how things normally sound over here. None of that is to say that you will not enjoy tonight's episode. There was some really fun conversation captured both in the initial recording about Deep Cover and in the one we recorded later, summarizing our conversation about Woody Allen. So, with all of that preamble out of the way, here is tonight's episode of Meet Your Double Feature. All right, Frank, welcome back. Episode 5 already here for Meet Your Double Feature. How are you doing today?
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I don't usually add that part, but just so you don't tell me how you were yesterday. How are you doing now?
Today specifically, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. I was worried because if I'd asked about the wrong day, it could have been a different answer.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Anywho, we got a movie show, so we're going to start that now.
Apparently, yeah.
All right, so for episode 5, we talked about the movies we selected at the end of our last episode. So today you're going to be discussing Deep Cover from 1992, which I recommended, but I'll be honest, I no longer remember what Deep Cover is or why I selected it. So maybe you can tell me.
I was going to ask what the motivation behind this pick was. I have to imagine it had something to do with the cast.
Oh, yeah, because this is... I want to say it's Lawrence Fishburne and what's his name?
Do you want me to tell you, or do you just want to keep guessing.
Just leave the audience in suspense. I want to say it's Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what it is. I think I saw those two. I thought that was an interesting pairing, and there was like a cool cover art for the Criterion version of the film. I think that's all I went off of for this one.
Yeah, that I actually didn't know that until after I watched it, but this was added into the Criterion collection in 2021, which was like the first like 4K digital restoration of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
And it's actually, correction on the actors, it's Larry Fishburne as he's credited in this movie for some reason.
What? He goes by Larry?
I guess he did for a while. I don't know how long in his acting career, but it's Jeff Goldblum and Larry Fishburne.
That's weird. What? I can't think of another example of that, of someone making it into multiple starring roles and then trying to change their name, you know?
Well, yeah, I know. Well, and this was the last film where he was credited as Larry.
Oh, R.I.P. Larry Fishburne.
Yeah.
It's his final performance.
his swan song. We'll never see him again. But
yeah. Morpheus who? That's weird. Okay. So I know that, again, from what I can recall now that I've been reminded, I think this was like a criminal drug cartel kind of movie. Is that the right direction?
It very much is that. That's exactly what it is. I was getting similar vibes to Grifters.
Ooh, bad sign. Check out episode 2 for our thoughts on Grifters.
Yes, and I was like, at first I was like, why does he keep recommending these movies to me?
That's the long con. I'm just going to make you watch a series of terrible crime films.
I gotta be honest, early on, I was like, so what are the rules if I just turn this off? Because I was like...
Wow.
But I didn't.
Okay. I think there should be... now we got a rules conversation. I think not finishing should be allowed, but that can't mean it's like a 0. You know what I mean? Like if...
Oh, yeah, sure.
Maybe you can tap out and just knock it away with like a 3. Just some sort of flat score.
I mean, I would have found something to talk about, and it wasn't like an overwhelming urge, but like in like the first 10-15 minutes, I was not vibing with the movie at all. But I'm glad I stuck it out because it went into some interesting places.
So what about this first opening 15 minutes was such a turnoff? I
mean, it's just the type of movie it is. It's just like I found myself sitting there watching it. And I'm like, who likes these?
Who likes these movies about criminal underworlds?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's like this one, it tries to give it this very rounded, realistic look at these types of things, you know, at this kind of like crime and lifestyle, but it's like you're seeing it through this very filmic lens, so you know it's like heightened, and it just, to me as a viewer, creates such a disconnect. And it's just, I don't know, I don't think I'm like an overly sensitive viewer, but it's just a lot of uncomfortable stuff, especially this one, because it's like, essentially, to give you the loose framework of the story here, Larry Fishburne is
good old Larry.
He's a cop who is sent undercover to disrupt a drugs and narcotics syndicate in LA. And he doesn't want to do it. Like,
oh, okay.
He's just like,
I'm tired, boss.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny too, because like there's voiceover narration. So it is kind of a noir film, and that's where it starts to get into like the more interesting aspects of the movie that I did click with. But it's sort of like a modern noir style film. And so he's doing this voiceover, and he essentially says that. He was like, they were telling me about this undercover thing, and I was like, man, I don't want to do that. And then he's saying this like as he's doing it, and it's like, well, why'd you do it then, Larry? Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm given things to do at work that I don't feel like doing, but kind of a weird motivation for your heroic lead.
But it ties into what his whole character is, because basically there is a flashback at the beginning where like his dad is like a drug addict and he gets shot trying to like rob a liquor store. And so, early on, like Lawrence Fishburne's character is like, I've never touched drugs. I don't even drink, He's like, I promised myself I'd never get into that kind of stuff. But he's brought in by this DEA agent, and he's the one that tells him, like, we looked at your psychological profile and you're actually perfect for this type of work. So I guess they convince him to do it because they convince him he's going to be doing a good thing. But yeah, then again, this is like in the first 20-30 minutes of the movie, you're seeing a lot of like unfortunate imagery of like street crime and like drug abuse and these like people in like Skid Row, Los Angeles, that are the part like of this like crack epidemic that's going on. So that was the part of the movie where I was like, I don't want 2 hours of this.
No, I'm completely with you. I wouldn't have even recommended it if I knew that was a part of it, because I will say that over time I've become increasingly just like bummed out watching stuff like that. Even though it's a part of a lot of good filmmaking, I don't like sitting through it either.
Yeah, so that's just a personal preference thing, but I did also recognize early on that the film definitely had a unique style and like voice to it, which is where Grifters completely fell flat, because it was like unfortunate imagery and story with like no style or substance to it, whereas Deep Cover is like full of that. It has like, there's really good filmmaking going on there, and that's what kind of kept me with it. Like the cinematography is excellent and like stylish. Like there's a lot of like unique lighting, and like the costumes are great, the performances are strong, like all of these like technical filmmaking aspects. It has a lot of intention behind it, so it's like it was really well like directed and executed in that way. So that is why I was like, okay, I can at least appreciate this, even though this isn't the type of movie I would normally just throw on to watch, basically.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So this is just one of those, like, if you're in the mood for a more kind of serious and heavy adult film experience, a lot of what I've picked for you so far is very goofy stuff, and I unintentionally picked a much more harrowing one.
Which, that's fine in and of itself, because at least this movie, I feel like, had something to say. I was looking at the trivia, and it was released like just weeks before the LA riots, and so it's very like topical in that sense. And again, once I kind of recognized the strong filmmaking happening, I was looking up like the cinematographer and the director to kind of see previous things that they'd worked on. And the director, Bill Duke, a lot of his work centers around like the Black experience, and for Lawrence Fishburne to be the lead of this movie in 1992, like it definitely was speaking to what was happening in the real world at the time. But it's just, again, it's like some of it just came off as goofy, so it's just like there was like that weird kind of disconnect with like this violent, like traumatic imagery, and like some of the stuff just not landing, I think, the way they intended it to. But I can kind of get more into that stuff later. But yeah, Lawrence Fishburne kills it as the lead. Jeff Goldblum, don't know if they're presented as co-leads, but it is all from Lawrence Fishburne's perspective.
Is Goldblum like the villain, or is he another cop guy?
No. Well, they are friends. Honestly, a lot happens in this movie. There's a lot to recap to really get into it. So like Lawrence Fishburne, he goes undercover and starts like selling drugs on the street because they want him to get closer to these higher ups in this drug syndicate, cartel, whatever the proper term is. I'm not sure, actually.
You guys got one of them syndicate cartels over here.
Yeah, he's like really bad at it.
That's a good premise, actually, is the idea of taking someone who's never done drugs or had alcohol and trying to make him be like an undercover drug dealer. Like, that is sort of a comedy premise if you play it differently.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is, like, I thought there would be an obvious, that's like a setup for like a scene. And it kind of happens, I was like, okay, so there's going to be a scene where they want him to take the drugs, like,
oh, yeah.
And there is a scene where somebody like offers him drugs and he's like, not for me. And they're like, well, this guy's a cop. And they're just like,
rather than like lay into that tension at all, they're just like, nope, definitely a cop.
Yeah. But then they kind of move past that. He just kind of like talks his way out of it. So, to jump ahead a bit, he does wind up taking drugs later in the movie, but it's more like because he's at his like breaking point and he just decides to. Like, he just has a drink at one point. He's like, this is my first drink. It's pretty good.
Is he announcing it to everybody?
He's talking to another character. He's talking to the DEA guy. And I was like,
just out on the corner where he's doing his drug deals, like, just in case you don't know.
Hey, you guys tried alcohol? It's not bad.
Crazy, right? It was illegal for a while.
Yes. That, yeah.
Bit of a history lesson.
That's how bad he is. No, he's actually really good at being an undercover cop. That's the whole thing. So to answer your previous question, him and Jeff Goldblum is like one of the higher ups in this group. And so he, like, while he's undercover, gets close to him and they become friends and they start working together. And
Gotcha.
So that's where like that connection comes in. But, Goldblum, he's not as heavily featured in the movie as Lawrence Fishburne is, but it's because Lawrence Fishburne has so many, like, quest lines going on at the same time. He's doing so many things. Like, it's like every scene, it's like either he's hanging out with Jeff Goldblum, or he's talking to the DEA guy, or he's with, like, his love interest in the movie, or he's with these other crime guys. That's not the right word, but whatever.
Crime syndicate buddies,
Yeah. So yeah, they're friends in the movie. Goldblum gives a really just Goldblum-esque performance, but he's actually, like, honestly probably one of the better performances I've seen from him. I think it's like, I think he's, especially later in his career, one of those actors who's almost become like a flanderized version of himself.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's basically been playing the same guy ever since like Jurassic Park.
Yes. Exactly. And this is more so him giving a real performance. So I was like, oh, well, this is good. I mean, he's a good actor.
Yeah, I like Jeff Goldblum a lot. Again, I was hoping we would see like a real performance out of him in this one.
Yes, you definitely do. Yeah, that's one of the like stronger. Like I said, everything is executed not just well, but like stylistically. There's a lot going on here, and as the plot like starts unfolding and like layering on itself, I was like, for the second half of the film, I was like, okay, I'm with this. Now I'm interested, like, in seeing where this goes, because to like jump forward a bit, basically, like, Lawrence Fishburne, he gets pretty deep into this whole thing, and at one point he's like, am I a cop pretending to be a drug dealer, or am I a drug dealer pretending to be a cop at this point? He's very like mixed up in this world. But that leads to just this is where the like movie logic stuff starts getting in there, and I was like, what the heck is happening? Because there's one character who, I don't know if this was the movie's like one attempt to like add in some like levity or comedy, but there was a character who was like, he was like another drug dealer. He's like one of the street level drug dealers, right?
Okay.
And the first time you see him, like, there's this young kid, he's like 12 or 13, like selling drugs on the corner, and this guy comes up to him and he's just like, I told you not to come around here again. And then the kid like runs away, and the guy just like pulls out a gun and he says like, hasta la vista, baby, and he shoots him in the back.
What? That's a new reference at the time.
I know. And like, but he didn't say it, like, he didn't do like an Arnold accent or anything. He just kind of said it. And so it didn't really like register that much to me. I was like, okay, whatever, he's saying the Terminator thing. But then later that character comes back and he gets into an argument with Lawrence Fishburne, and like Lawrence Fishburne pulls out a gun and like he backs off, and he's just like, I'll be back. I'll be back. And he's like, you seen that movie? Rent it at your local video store. And I was like, wait, what? So he's just always doing this? Like he's always doing
He's just a big fan of T2 Judgment Day?
I guess so. I was like, it didn't click for me until then that I was like, oh, he's always saying Terminator stuff, but like, again, he's not doing like the Arnold accent. He's just kind of saying it. And I was like, what is going on with this guy? And like his performance was very exaggerated. And then like this leads to a scene where after that interaction, Lawrence Fishburne is talking to Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum's like, well, we got to kill that guy. Like that's just what we got to do. And Lawrence Fishburne's like, okay. And then he goes to do it. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, is that allowed for an undercover cop? He can just go around killing people?
Good question. Good question. That's going to have to go in his report.
Yeah.
It's going to be bullets that are like, tried alcohol, thumbs up. Shot a guy, question mark?
Bullets. He's just shooting paper.
Hasta la vista, paper. He's like, oh, I do like it.
It is funny. But yeah, even that scene where he's like forced to kill this guy, it's supposed to be this like dramatic turning point for Lawrence Fishburne, but like the guy's performance in that scene is also like comical in a way. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about this character. I like him. He's interesting, but I don't know what like the intention is here.
This side plot, this has stolen all my attention. This doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, why in writing a like grounded, kind of demoralizing story about the undercover world of drug trafficking, would you specify so heavily that this guy just loves the recently released film Terminator 2?
Yeah, like that's like his persona, but even he doesn't fully commit to it. He just kind of like bluntly says the lines. Like, and he literally said, he was like, go rent the movie. Like, so he's like, what?
It's advertising.
Yeah. I don't know. This movie was released by New Line Cinema, by the way. I did like seeing that logo right at the beginning.
Love New Line.
The classic, like, New Line Cinema. And speaking of that, actually, to jump into something else I thought was very funny, there was a scene. It's actually the scene where Lawrence Fishburne tracks that guy down to kill him. He goes into a nightclub that this guy's in, and there's this dude performing on stage. And the way that this scene of the guy on stage is like, the way it's lit, the way it's shot, and everything just reminded me of like Vanilla Ice in the Ninja Turtles movie in Secret of Use.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even the way the guy's on stage, like rapping, like the type of musical performance he's giving is even similar to like.
This is from the same year as Secret of the Use. They're both 1992.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess that's just what like nightclubs looked like then.
Because I could picture the Vanilla Ice scene very clearly, the kind of like significantly elevated stage and sort of like just like flat dance floor underneath and very like almost red lighting scheme.
Yeah, now just take that and change absolutely nothing. And that's what it is.
So you want to start there and then also stop because you're done.
That's it. You've got it now.
Go ninja, go.
That's what I was picturing. And I was like, oh, hey, I mean, like you said, same year, same studio.
Fun piece of trivia, if you like Ninja Turtles too. That club is called the Dockshore Club, which you see for like 2 frames in that movie, because I think Mikey gets thrown through a door and it says like Dockshore Club this way, and then that's where they go.
Which that's a cool idea for a club, because it's like built into the side of a dock or something. Like it's right by
the it's
water.
Like a pier, which I think was just a story necessity for Ninja Turtles because they jump out into the water at the end when they fight Super Shredder. But yeah, maybe it's a real type of thing. I don't know.
Probably smells bad though.
Probably smells bad. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, hey, you want to go down to the Dockshore Club? Smells like dead fish.
Cool.
Thing's polluted as hell. Have you tried alcohol, by the way?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, gotta say.
So, anyway, like...
It's a big anyway.
It's just like where... I don't even know where to go next with Deep Cover. Like,
I'm tempted to say that, like, I know sometimes we really dig into the plots because it's really crucial to our thoughts on the movie, but I don't know that you necessarily need to give the audience everything because it sounds like if you're in the mood for that kind of movie, maybe it is fairly good.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely like executed thoughtfully, like artistically. Like it has vision and style, and I appreciate all those things about it. And again, the second half of the movie gets pretty interesting. I will say, like the way they get to the climax of the movie feels clunky to me because this kind of goes back to like, you know, the movie logic of what being an undercover cop means, I guess. Because like Lawrence Fishburne does just go kill that guy. Like he's in that nightclub, dance club, whatever, follows him into the bathroom and just shoots him. And then later he's talking to his DEA boss and he's like, so you killed that guy, huh? That's cool. Anyway, we're just gonna move on. And then like there's another scene he has with that guy later where, and this is where he has that kind of moment where he's like not sure what he wants to do or what he's been doing, because basically they tell him, they're like, oh, things have changed. They're like, this guy who's at the head of this organization that we were trying to take down, we like him now because we want him to, you know, run for political office in the country he's from. But he's the guy that's been bringing these drugs into the U.S. And so Lawrence Fishburne just gets super pissed off. He was like, so this is all for nothing, whatever. And he's like, basically like, I quit. I'm going to go be a drug dealer now. I like that better. And
okay, straight to jail.
Yeah, he was just like, he says,
I should say that out loud.
He's basically like, that's not how this works. You can't just do that. And he was like, bye. And that's when he takes the alcohol. And he's like, pretty good. And so like,
it's that late in the movie. Okay.
Yeah. And then he goes and he's doing coke or whatever. And like, so he's like, at this point, seemingly fully committed to this lifestyle. And so I'm watching and I'm like, okay, so we're leading to some kind of like tragic ending for his character where he does fall, you know, fully into this lifestyle and he's going to die or get arrested or something, you know, because like his dad died because of it.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, he's with Jeff Goldblum, and there's this one detective who's been like trying to get through to Lawrence Fishburne because he doesn't know that he's undercover. He thinks he is just this kind of drug dealer, and he's been trying to get him to go straight basically and like work with the cops. And you know, Lawrence Fishburne's always blowing him off throughout the whole movie, but then he shows up at the end while they're trying to do this big drug deal, and Jeff Goldblum shoots Lawrence Fishburne's cop friend.
It's the nice cop. Okay.
Yeah, and like Lawrence Fishburne is like distraught over this, and then he's like telling Jeff Goldblum, he was like, I'm a cop, you're under arrest. And I'm like, no, you're not, Lawrence Fishburne, you quit. You just
you quit. You updated your LinkedIn weeks ago to say drug dealer.
I was like, just kind of going back and forth here. And so that's like how those two like get into conflict with each other at the end, and then like Lawrence Fishburne winds up shooting Jeff Goldblum. And then it just kind of cuts and he's like presenting this case of him being undercover like he was like, I don't know, like everything went according to plan. And I was like, I don't think that's how this works. But like you just went and like killed people and like did all this stuff and walked away from being a cop or whatever. And then like he like makes a deal with the DEA guy where he was like, you're not going to charge me for anything or whatever, and I'm going to make sure that, like, you know, I won't talk bad about your agency. And he's like, okay, bet. But then, like, the twist reveal at the end is that, like, Lawrence Fishburne had someone recording this drug deal with the guy that the DEA decided that they liked and wanted to, you know, run for office. And he, like, released that out to the public, and he was like, ha! Gotcha. And then like his DEA boss gets all mad at him, and they're like in the courtroom still, and Lawrence Fishburne just like punches him in the stomach. And I was like, what are the rules here? Lawrence Fishburne can just do whatever he wants.
Like, rules. That's funny.
There's just no consequences for anything he does. And then he had stolen all this money from this drug dealer guy, and so he walks away. Like it's just such a like happy ending for his character. And then he goes back to finish this, like, adopt a kid side quest that he started in the beginning of the movie that I had forgotten about. Because when he first went undercover, he was, like, living in this, like, rundown building, and there was this woman across the hall who had, like, you know, like a young kid, and she was messed up and tweaking out the whole time, and he kind of, like, formed a connection with this kid. This is all in, like, the first act, and then, like, the movie completely forgets about it up until, like, the very end, where Lawrence Fishburne's like, oh yeah, I gotta go get that kid. And then he does. And I was like,
does.
what? I was like, I thought we moved on from that. Like, I didn't realize that this kid was still a part of this story. And that's how the movie ends. And I was like,
that's so strange.
Yeah. So it felt a little, like I was saying before, for as much like style and intentionality that it had, it felt a little unfocused with its story because it was trying to do so much at once, you know, and it wound up trying to like cram a lot in there.
You landed on the right language. It sounds like Lawrence Fishburne is a video game protagonist, because if you play something like, I don't know, like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, one of those like RPGs that's full of quest lines and different routes you can go down, they all have to resolve in a way that just pushes you on to the next thing, even if theoretically some of these events either contradict each other or would have like obvious consequences for your character. But if he's like the main character of the universe, because it's his video game, he can't just move on. He's in like using Grand Theft Auto logic by the end of this movie.
He basically is. Speaking of video games too, it's so funny. The kid, the like young boy, who he like adopts, I guess, at the end. It was like, I don't know if they thought they maybe couldn't get sort of a dramatic performance out of this kid because he's really young. So literally every time you see him, he's playing a Game Boy, and it's like the old, like before the Game Boy Color, like the original like chunky Game Boy.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he just like has the same blank, like he doesn't look distraught in any way. He looks like he's just having the time of his life playing this Game Boy as things are happening around him. And I'm like, he's just like me for real. But he's just like
blankly staring at an old brick Game Boy, just like, man, Mondays.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm just like, this kid doesn't seem to care about any of this. He's playing Mario or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's a good way to put it. Lawrence Fishburne just moves through this world with no consequences, does whatever he wants.
It also doesn't seem to let the audience in on his perspective enough, because it feels like he was like deceiving you into what he wanted to do next.
Yeah, almost, because I mean, they're like, he has these voiceovers, these very like detective noir style voiceovers. They're kind of intermittent throughout the film, you know, like towards the end. I think there's one maybe right at the end, but they're sparse. They're you know, they're just kind of sprinkled throughout. So it's like you are getting a sense of what he's thinking throughout the movie. But I mean, even that like I guess it was set up, but even that kind of like big twist at the end where he was like, "Ha, I got this guy." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess so." I mean, you were doing so many other things. Like,
yeah,
like, sure, we can do that.
That's weird. I don't know. I just can't visualize the story. Like, there's so many elements going on here, and like you said, the almost flip-flopping nature of it. Like, a lot of it was clearly done with intention that I'm just not following, but it sounds like a weird way to pitch a movie that was trying to be like a somewhat serious, like, life of crime and drugs, you know?
Yeah. And I think it wanted to do that in a way that it was like entertaining at the same time, you know? Like, it didn't want to be too matter of fact and dour about the whole thing.
This is a problem I see with a lot of films that try to tackle like serious subjects. I think I've heard it phrased before as like, you know, there are no anti-war movies, because any film that tries to depict the horrors of war is still sort of glorifying it in that it's entertaining you with it. And that kind of undercuts any sort of messaging the story might have about whether what's being shown on screen is bad. You know, like, you can't necessarily rely on an audience to make the same inference as the author that like, this is bad if you watched it and you're like, that was fun. Lawrence Fishburne shot a guy and drank a bunch of alcohol.
Well, I mean, I exactly. I think that's like a similar case has been made for like, there's so many movies where you have like your action cop character, and this is more of a kind of crime thriller, but it still has action elements too. And I mean, that inspires a lot of people to think that cops can just do whatever they want and go around shooting people with no consequences, because that's how they do it in the movies.
I think if the movie ends with him like sinking into the life of like a drug addict and drug peddler in a way that it's all he has left because he ruins every other chance he has, like that's an ending. And I could see that, but I guess they wanted more of a wish fulfillment angle, and I don't know. I mean, we were just complaining the opening of the movie was too sad. Maybe that's what they thought.
Well, they wanted to send the audience home happy is what they wanted to do. Because, I mean, even at one point prior to the ending, like, his love interest in the movie, he kind of sends her away because he's like, things are getting dangerous here. And he's like, are we done? And she's like, we're done if you're still doing this. He's like, she's like, you can come with me. But then, like, the DEA, like, picks her up. Like, she's trying to, like, leave and go to the airport and, just start a new life somewhere. But they grab her because she's kind of been involved in this, too. And so, like, that's part of the deal that he makes at the end is, like, when I speak to whoever he was talking to, Congress, I guess, like, someone, like, he was, whoever that was at the end, like, he's like, you got to let her go, too. So it's kind of like he even, like, repairs that relationship at the end as well, like, with her. So it's like everything works out for him. And it's like, yeah, I feel like that almost isn't the story that you set up, though. So
interesting. It makes me wonder if the trajectory of the like third act was ever different, like if maybe at one point on the page it was more sad and like a downer and then it got changed, because sometimes I'll think that and then it'll be like, no, that was the original intention all along. But definitely seems like a surprise for how the rest of the film had been set up.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was the original ending in mind. It felt that way. It felt, despite like what felt like clunky elements to me, it didn't feel like an incomplete story in any way.
Oh, okay.
It definitely, it had an arc to it, and his character went on this journey and was changed by the end. I guess maybe me watching it, I thought at some point, like around the middle, like when he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go be I'm done being a cop, I'm gonna go just be a crime lord now. I was like, oh, that's fun. Let's see where this goes.
Well, okay, this is maybe my other pending question. Why did he like being a drug dealer? Like, what did the movie show you that made him a fan of that side of the coin?
So this was even like an interesting conversation he had with his DA boss at one point, because when they're having that conversation, well, I should say, prior to that, they're telling him basically, they're like, you have to look the part. Like, as he moves his way up through this world, they're like, you got to start dressing nice and like get a new place and, drive around a new nice car. Like, and so through his voiceover narration, he was like, well, this is nice. I'm like a big shot on the streets. So he's like, that's cool.
This guy's so simple, he just lives in the moment. He's just like, man, I had all these like, perspectives and hardline rules for myself, and it turns out cars and booze. Not bad.
Yeah, and it's like the other characters even kind of call him out on that too. Jeff Goldblum at the end, like their whole conversation, he's like, I don't care that you're a cop. We got millions of dollars in this van. Let's get the hell out of here. He's just, and then when he's talking to the guy who brought him in, the DEA guy, he's like, the DEA guy's trying to tell him, he's like, we're done with this whole operation. They're offering us, to go to Washington and do something else there. We'll be big shots there. And Lawrence Fishburne's like, I'm a big shot here. He's like, I don't need to go do that. Like, I'm going to do this.
That makes sense. I wasn't sure if the angle was like the allure of a life of crime, or if there was some other take on it, like it being the community he had found himself in. Because those are like the two versions. You get the Fast and Furious angle is like, oh no, I've become sort of swept up in the found family of this gang of criminals. And then the other one is like Scarface. Like, oh, I just want to be rich and do crime.
Yeah, no, it was Scarface.
It was okay. Yeah. The world is yours.
Yeah, it was not Ohana Means Family, Paul Walker. It was.
I hope someone thinks that's from Fast and Furious. What is that, Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah. No, I mean, as far as I can tell, at least, as far as what the movie presented, which is almost what made it kind of jarring too, like I was saying what led to that conclusion where he was so distraught over this cop who was like trying to set him on the right path. That, it was like his, like, obviously it was like his conscience, he was like, okay, like I've gone too deep, deep cover, if you will.
Deep cover.
So it made sense in that way, which is again what makes me think, this didn't feel like there was holes in this plot. It felt like it went where it wanted to go, but it was like wish fulfillment along the way. So
I'm very curious toward the end of our show what this is going to do to your score for the movie, because this feels like a toss-up between how much you liked the ride versus what you thought of like the validity of that as an ending.
I mean, the ending, there's actually, so in the scene where Lawrence Fishburne winds up shooting Jeff Goldblum, throughout the movie, they kind of, again, this is another like light attempt at like, I guess, comedy or levity, but they're kind of having this back and forth conversation in different scenes throughout the movie about like, they're like, oh, what's the weirdest thing you've ever done sexually?
Oh, okay.
It's fine. It's lighthearted, it's whatever. It's just to kind of show their friendship. And Jeff Goldblum brings that line back, while he's trying to like diffuse the situation between them at the end. He's like, what'd you say the weirdest thing you ever did sexually was? And Lawrence Fishburne's like, man, nothing seems that weird anymore. I was like, that's a good line. And also how I feel about this movie. Because like, what do we like?
That I must say, your skills as a film reviewer are growing, because that is such a funny button to sum up your thoughts on Deep Cover.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, whatever you want to do, movie. You're in charge.
You know what? I almost tapped out at the beginning, but by staying, I feel like I've sort of consented to whatever this is.
We've all grown and tried booze along the way.
Yeah, that's the smash cut to you during the second act. Like you're just opening like a bottle of liquor. Like, what the heck? If Larry can do it.
This one's for you, Larry. Pour one out on the couch.
Pour one out. Okay, well, I'm at a loss for words, to be honest, about Deep Cover. But why don't we kick it over to our intermission? And when we return, we can go from talking about a film about crime to a film starring a man accused of a crime. So stay tuned for Woody Allen, everybody.
Like Woody Allen's the name of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't say the title. Stay tuned for Everyone Says I Love You, starring alleged criminal Woody Allen. Okay, so, Frank, we're back from the intermission, but something funny has happened. The audience just heard our Deep Cover review. For them, it was a few seconds ago. But for you and I, it has been 4 weeks.
Yep, we time traveled here.
Could you tell the folks at home why it has been 4 weeks since we talked about this?
The future is bleak. Humanity has collapsed, but this podcast is still going.
Yeah, yep, Skynet has risen. They liked the show.
They liked it. They kept us around. Like, that's all right.
Yeah. They were knocking down doors, and they were like, hold on.
Hang on a second.
I like this one.
We're on to something here. Anyway, yeah, what was the question? Why are we doing this
So,
again?
It's been 4 weeks since you and I originally recorded the second half of this episode, where we talked about Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You. But due to a technical issue, that audio got severely corrupted. There's not really a good reason for it. Essentially, you and I that day spoke for like such a long time before we started and then did the whole episode that my computer started overheating. So my audio on my end was captured. Yours is fine. My audio was captured and it showed me the waveform, so I thought it was fine. But then I listened back to it and it sounded like I was speaking from like inside a toaster. It was just like severe data loss from my feed specifically. So, Frank, what did we say about the Woody Allen movie? A long time ago.
Yeah, I think you loved it. You gave it like a
12
out of 10.
15 out of 10.
Like, yeah.
So, essentially, why did you ask me to watch a Woody Allen musical? AKA, what did I do to hurt you?
That sounds like the name of the musical, actually.
Oh yeah.
But we talked about it in the episode, but like I think more so coincidentally than anything else, we hadn't really seen, neither of us had seen any of Woody Allen's films.
Right.
And it was just interesting to me that this one was a musical. There was something else we hadn't done on the show before, so I was like, a Woody Allen musical. And it had a great ensemble cast. So
yeah,
I was just
all
like...
of that is true.
These are all, and that's where the praise ends, I think. It's just...
That is where the praise ends. So to make a long story short, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It is an interesting movie. It is the classic Woody Allen ensemble cast story, told in much the same way as a lot of his other more famous works. The gimmick of it being a musical is both the most interesting thing about it and the most frustrating. Because, as I talked about in the full recording, Woody Allen did this weird bit where he brought in actors who are not trained singers and also had some who could sing and kind of told them to sing poorly on purpose. The gimmick with Everyone Says I Love You is it's supposed to be kind of like everyday people having the musical experience of breaking into song to express, how they feel because the feeling is so powerful. And they do this by having folks perform a lot of old music from like 30s and 40s musicals or old jazz standards. So no original music was written for this movie. It is essentially a cover album from people who don't know how to sing, which Woody Allen thought was really cool. And I think annoyed the heck out of me.
Oh, yeah. That would annoy me too. That's such a, I guess I understand the artistic intention behind that, but like in practice, that's terrible.
This definitely feels like something you get away with because you've already made like 12 really popular movies and won a bunch of awards. Like no first time writer-director is going to get this pitch off the ground because it's just not. It's so much better on paper as a funny little thought exercise than as a movie that's almost 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We do get the ensemble cast. The story is about this extended family of like New York socialite type people. Woody Allen is the father of this teenage girl called DJ. She's like the narrator for the whole story. And she explains that she lives with her mother, her stepfather, and then both her siblings from her mom's first marriage and her step-siblings. So it's kind of just this one big dysfunctional family all dealing with different little vignettes and stories about falling in love and how they feel about it. And so we get a series of different numbers, again, all covers of existing music. I think the most notable one that gets repeated in this movie is I'm Through with Love, which was sung by Marilyn Monroe in Some Like It Hot, and as I talked about in the episode, by Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst. The cast is interesting. We have like a young Edward Norton and Drew Barrymore. Tim Roth is in it. Some of the more accomplished actors at the time was like Alan Alda is there. The thing that also dragged the movie down for me is that Woody Allen is in fact in it, like all of his movies. And as we talked about previous, Woody Allen, reputation is shot. I think a lot of people who were watching his stuff at the time gave him a benefit of the doubt. But this story in particular is about Woody Allen's character deceiving this woman who's like 25 years younger than him and trying to fall in love with him. And it just is such an analog to like the real life weirdness of Woody Allen. And he's playing it so much just as himself that I had a hard time separating it. And it just made me dislike him the moment the story begins. And he never won me back.
Yeah, and is he supposed to be an unlikable character in the movie too? I
don't think so. I think he thinks he's supposed to be neurotic because the like dialogue style that I think Woody Allen really featured heavily in a lot of his movies is this like constantly talking kind of like yapping dialogue where you're just over explaining everything and there's a lot of overlapping chatter between different groups of characters. I mean, there's a scene in this one, Everyone Says I Love You, where there's like a family dinner going wrong and there's like 8 different people talking at once in a scene that carries on that bit for like a minute of screen time. It's such a long time to be doing that it just gets grating so quickly. And I don't know, I'm the wrong audience for this Woody Allen movie. I like musicals a lot. I wish I could have liked this one more, but everything about it was like uniquely frustrating for me to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, I also didn't realize when I picked it that it was, again, we had 4 weeks, I didn't look up the term for this, but when it's a musical that is using existing music. Like, I don't know if there is a specific term for that, but...
A more well-known example that was good was like Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge
Yes.
uses real music sung by new performers and kind of added in the context of a different story.
Which, hot take, that movie annoys me too. Just
interesting.
Throw some shade at Moulin Rouge while we're here.
Secret bonus episode, Moulin Rouge.
Boo.
But, boo. Moulin Rouge, tell me about it. So, the Woody Allen movie, I didn't really feel anything for it. But at the same time, I can't knock it as being like poorly put together. I mean, it's just a classic Woody Allen thing. And I think a lot of the dialogue, if you liked his other movies up till that point, would still resonate here because it's not like it's worse. I mean, I haven't seen them, but it doesn't seem like it'd be any worse than his other movies. So I believe that at the end of the day, when we moved into our closing, I gave Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You a 3 out of 10. Let the record confirm, because I actually don't remember.
A well-earned 3 out of 10.
Well earned. I mean, I was hesitant. I tried to go higher, I think, and you were like, no, don't give him too much benefit of the doubt. Because like I said, I did a bad job here. I was like, I don't like this guy. He reads as creepy to me. And this movie he made reads as creepy to me.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. The scores are just based on whatever you feel, so...
So it was a 3 out of 10. It's not like... To get lower than that would have to be like approaching like this was just not a movie, like not put together properly or something really, really noticeably absent. To get a 1 or a 2. So Woody Allen got a 3 out of 10. Frank, do you recall what you gave Deep Cover? Because that's the part of the review that people heard unedited from when we first spoke about it.
Oh, I didn't know there would be a quiz. I don't remember what I gave Deep Cover.
You gave Deep Cover a 5 out of 10.
Oh, thanks. So you knew the whole time.
I was just trying to throw to you about it. As I recall, you told me that you thought Deep Cover was really well directed and put together, but that again, it just kind of wasn't really your speed and that you thought it was fine, but nothing like that really hooked you.
Yeah, no, Deep Cover, like, executed, like, a lot of the technical elements really well. I really liked the cinematography and, like, the performances. And, I mean, honestly, it kind of, like, is one of the movies of all the ones we've done on this show that, like, I remember the most fondly, maybe, even though I didn't score it very high.
That's interesting. I think we're going to, at some point, probably do a bit of a retrospective on everything. And I wonder if our thoughts about any of these will change. Because this is our first time looking backwards at what we thought at the time.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Deep Cover, like, I don't know. And I tend to skew more positive. So it's like I get further away from it. I think I am more so just remembering the things I did like about it as opposed to the things that may have, like, turned me off at the time.
That's interesting. That does mean that I win the episode because the movie I recommended to you got a better score than the one you gave to me. And I think at this point, again, we're kind of in the future. We just finished recording episode 7. But as of the end of this episode that you're hearing now, Frank, I think I'm ahead in the season 1 standings by like 4 points. Not a lot. It's a close game.
Yeah. Stay tuned. I think I win every other episode after this. So,
Skynet really liked those episodes a lot better. So in order to set that up for episode 6, where apparently Frank wins, because I won this time, I got to go first, and I asked you to watch 1991's Doc Hollywood, a comedy drama of sorts starring Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Doc Hollywood.
Can't wait to have already seen and reviewed Doc Hollywood.
Let me tell you, that Doc, he's so Hollywood.
So Hollywood. You wouldn't believe it. Yes, I picked that one out because I like Michael J. Fox. I have not seen him do much outside of Back to the Future, his most famous stuff, but I did watch a whole documentary recently about his life and dealing with Parkinson's and how it affected his career as an actor, and I just thought, I don't know, he's just a very likable performer, and I thought that this one would be kind of in the spirit of like Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael, the first movie I had you watch, just a kind of 90s comedy that they don't really make anymore.
Yeah, totally. And I won't spoil what I thought of it.
Yeah, 11 out of 10. So what did you ask me to watch for our upcoming episode 6?
You keep asking me these questions that you know the answers to.
Oh, come on. Jackal.
Jackal,
you asked me to watch Bruce Willis and Richard Gere in 1997's Jackal, a loose remake of the 70s film Day of the Jackal.
Yes. Which I picked because Bruce Willis. Mostly.
Because Bruce Willis. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
We don't know a lot about these movies because we haven't seen them, so actor pairings is often a key ingredient. I do want to immortalize, for the record, that we had a funny thing happen when this first conversation happened. You actually selected a movie for me to watch that I had seen before. You wanted me to watch a Michael Douglas movie called The Game from the same year, I think. And we had to hit the big whammy button because I had already seen it.
Yeah. And The Game would have been a good choice. The Jackal was my
That's what I said.
Backup choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it on the air, and you would have heard it in the full recording. But if I had been given The Game, given what I know about actually having seen it previous, it would have been like a 9 out of 10. It's such a fun movie. So if anyone has not seen The Game, it's very fun. But unfortunately, not show eligible. So instead, we're going to watch Jackal, or I'm going to watch Jackal, and hopefully, even better.
Yeah, I assume so. Why not?
I assume so. We already talked about it, so we know. But you're going to have to come back in 2 weeks to find out. Again, thank you so much for listening to the episode. Our apologies for the technical difficulties, but hopefully you got what you came for, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye, this guy. Thank you for listening to our show. Before we go tonight, I wanted to give some additional updates about screenings for Nate and Mariah in Venice, the film that Frank is co-producer on that is currently on its film festival circuit tour. We talked about this previously back in episode 3, but it's coming up again now. The film is available to stream digitally as part of the Richmond International Film Festival beginning on September 23rd. That's next week. You can actually buy your tickets now for $5 in order to access the film during the time it's screening at the festival. Again, more information on these screenings can be found at the Sardonic Pictures website, sardonicmp.com. The new announcement that we have for tonight's episode is that the film is also screening at the Glendale International Film Festival on Saturday, September 27th. Again, that one's coming up very soon. Tickets are on sale now, so check out sardonicmp.com, which is linked in the description for this episode. If you enjoyed tonight's show, make sure to give it a rating, leave a comment, share it with a friend, all the usual stuff. We also, as mentioned previously, are on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Meet Your Double Feature and on Blue Sky at MYDFpod. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our next episode of Meet Your Double Feature.
Coming up next, it's The Jackal, followed by Doc Hollywood on Meet Your Double Feature.